We come around this corner and we hit a pothole and it starts kind of jumping sideways, the truck. He kind of freaks out a little bit and overcorrects. We drop down 20 feet, the truck flips another 15 feet down and then stopped.
I want to welcome you back again for another story answering the question, is God active? This morning we are here with Sage Galance, formerly Sage Dubena, my niece, and am I ever happy to have her on here today to tell a story that happened 2019, May 3rd. Sage, tell us what happened so many years ago.
At the time I was going to a school in the States, a boarding school. My sister and I were going, and actually Kayla, my cousin, your son.
Yeah.
And every month we would get a home leave. So this particular home leave, we had invited a bunch of our friends to come up to Canada with us. And so it was about the second day into our home leave, and we had decided, well, hey, let's go mud bogging. Let's take the quads out. Let's go ripping around the property. And my dad had gotten us this like little old truck. It was a standard truck for us to learn how to drive standard. So we kind of loaded up everyone in the truck, and some were on the quad. And so then we head out, and we actually went to my grandparents' property because they live right next to where my parents live. So we go over there, we're ripping around in this field, and then my one friend, Elijah, he said, well, hey, can you teach me how to drive standard? So I was like, sure, like I've done it before, no problem. So he gets in the driver's seat and I'm in the passenger seat, and he's, I'm teaching him how to do this, and he's doing pretty good. So I was like, well, hey, let's drive up to my grandparents' place, let's go see their house.
Yeah.
So he's driving and we start going up the road, and then my one friend that was actually in the back seat, he said, well, could you pull over for a minute? He said, I don't feel comfortable, driving with you guys right now. And we were all like, okay, whatever. So we
You're a pretty good teacher.
Yeah. So we pull over and he gets out and he jumps on one of the quads, and they take off in front of us, all the quads, and we're kind of coming behind. So it was just me and Elijah in the truck, and we're going pretty quick up this dirt road. And we come around this corner and we hit a pothole. And now this truck is really old, so it has terrible suspensions. And so we hit this pothole and it starts kind of jumping sideways, the truck. And Elijah, not really knowing how to drive very, a standard truck, he kind of freaks out a little bit and overcorrects to one side of the road. So we start shooting across to the other side of the road. And then he kind of freaks out again and overcorrects to the other side.
Oh, man.
And yeah, by the time I went to grab the steering wheel to kind of get us back straight on the road, we went shooting off the side of the road. So it's about a 20-foot drop. You can kind of see up there. We dropped down 20 feet, and then there was a road underneath that we kind of nosedived and then flipped. The truck flipped another 15 feet down and then stopped. Here you can see where it stopped. Yeah. And so we were both, the truck came to a stop, and I was on top of Elijah actually, because we weren't wearing seatbelts. The windows were open and we were both on one side, the driver's side. And I'm laying there and I'm like, oh crumb, no one probably saw what happened because the quads were in front of us. So I was like, I gotta go get help. And Elijah's screaming a little bit because he was in a lot of pain. Something was wrong with him. And so I was like, okay, so I start crawling over to the passenger side. And as I was crawling over, all of a sudden, I just couldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed, and I just laid down where I was, and I laid my head on the window that was open, the passenger side window. And I just kind of laid my neck down on there. And all of a sudden I hear screaming, and my friends obviously saw what had happened, and they came running down here. And my one friend picked up my head because it was hanging out the window, and I was in shock at this point. So I just, I knew people were saying stuff. I wasn't really sure what was going on. And then my one friend, Maddie, that was with us, she's like, well, I'm going to go get the parents and get some help because, this is obviously a bad situation. So she goes back to my parents' place, and actually you and Auntie Jana had arrived from Alberta that day.
We'd just flown in.
Yeah, just got there. Yeah. So Maddie comes up, she's like, hey, there's been an accident, you guys need to come quick. And I don't know what she said to make it, not seem as bad as it was. You guys were kind of like, oh, okay, so you jump in the truck, my dad's truck, and you start coming up here. And then I'm laying there and I hear this blood curdling scream, and I just remember like, oh my goodness, like, am I missing a limb? And I realized it was my mom, because she had seen the accident and it was a lot worse than you guys had thought.
Yeah.
And so she comes running down. Auntie Jana came down, and they're both trying to talk to me, and I was just so out of it. And then the ambulance came, the firefighters, they pulled me out first, and they go to load me into the ambulance, and the lady said, hey, can you move your toes? So I was like, okay. So I moved my toes. Okay, we're good. And so then I remember them taking me down the road, and then I was asked the lady, I said, my arms feel like they're broken. Like, I'm in so much pain down my arms. Can you just check them? And she's like, okay. She's checking my arms. She's like, no, you're totally fine. There's nothing wrong. We're just going to get you to the hospital, get you checked, and you'll be good. So we arrived to the hospital right away. They take me in, do x-rays, and then I'm waiting in this bed, and I just remember I was in so much pain. And then they get Elijah out, and he actually ended up breaking his femur. When he got to the hospital, they found out he broke his femur. So he had to go into surgery right away. And then the doctor came to my room and talked to my mom and said, hey, he's like, so your daughter broke her neck in 3 places. So for medical terms, I broke my C6, C7, and a compression fracture on my T1. And he said, he's like, you have no idea how lucky she is. She could be completely paralyzed right now. Because I was a hairline fracture away from being quadriplegic, pretty much. And I just remember my mom's face she just started crying. I was crying. It was just so crazy, But I'm alive and I'm walking and I'm here to tell the story today, so.
Wow, Sage.
Yeah.
There's a text in the Bible, and it comes out of Isaiah chapter 41, verse 13. And this is what the Bible says. It says, for I hold you by your right hand, I, the Lord your God. And I say to you, don't be afraid. I am here to help you. I'm here to help you. That day when that accident happened, we had just flown in and all the stuff went on, and we came here, and it seemed like half the road came to help. Chainsaws, cutting a path out of here to get everybody out of here. So many people helping. One of the things before we told this story, Sage said to me, she said, Uncle Luke, is it okay if I tell him I'm still in pain? Yeah. And I said, absolutely it is, because when God is active and at work, sometimes we have this idea in our mind that everything's perfect after. That if God's active, everything's perfect. But the reality of it is that God is looking out for us, and He wants to hold us and give us hope, even when you may have pain. I know you get massages, you get all sorts of things to keep working with your neck. There may be some of you today that are going through something that have been like, man, I don't know how I'm going to get through this week, or I'm facing something that's way bigger than me. I want to invite you to make the Lord your God. Trust in Him. And I want to invite you back again next week as we continue answering the question, is God active?